My name is Arin Lindauer, and you're listening to A Life Without Struggle. I'm a wife, a mother of 2 wonderful children, a 2-time best-selling author, and a highly driven and successful entrepreneur. In my 17-plus year career as a mindset and health expert, I know what holds women back from a life you only dream about. Whether you're a CEO, a businesswoman, or executive, I started this podcast because I have been where you are, and I know you want and deserve more out of your life. I believe women are limitless. We just get lost along the way. The process to get you there is the topic and purpose of this podcast. When you understand what you want, you can truly step into a life without struggle. Welcome, and I'm so thankful you're here. Welcome back to another episode of Life Without Struggle. My name is Arin Lindauer, and today's topic is going to be the biggest mistakes I see women make in weight loss. Now, here is the deal. There is no shortage of information out there on the internet, whether you're doom scrolling, you're Googling, you're ChatGPTing on women and weight loss, women in perimenopause and weight loss, women in menopause and weight loss. And I mean, throw some hormone language in there, throw some whatever language, like there's just no shortage. And quite frankly, there's a lot of marketing and there's a lot of buzzwords being used, and there's just a lot of misinformation or information that is misleading in how they say it. And all it does is confuse the ever-living crap out of women. And my heart goes out to you, because my job and my purpose on this earth is to help women understand what is right, what they actually need to do, and how to actually implement it. The hardest thing I have is when women are so darn stubborn to thinking you got it all figured out. Or that, here's the other thing that genuinely I see, and my heart goes out to women, is you're like, dang, I should be able to figure this out. Right? Like I really should be able to figure this out on my own. And I agree with you, but this is like saying, you know what? I'm not a brain surgeon, but I'm going to go ahead and just, Google and research. And by God, if I look up enough things on ChatGPT, I'm going to know how to do brain surgery, right? I hope you guys are laughing, but the thing about this is I get a lot of women who genuinely just come into my DMs and they're like, hey, that really resonated, but I mean, I've done all these things, like I should be seeing results, which is 100% fair. Or I also have a camp of, I'll get on calls with women and you genuinely are like, there's no way what she just said is actually true, and I'm going to go figure this out on my own. And you keep beating your head against the wall. And those women I actually really, really feel for, because you don't know what you don't know. And this is my lane. I have been in this industry, and this is all I've ever done for the last 2 decades. And so you cannot replace the information that I have obtained through my degree and my countless certifications and just the hands-on practical work. I mean, at this point, I've worked with thousands of women and men. And again, I want to debunk so many things that you have heard. I want to give you the right knowledge so that you know this is just how I'm going to live my life, and I can be healthy, strong, confident. I can wear all my clothes. And so let's dive into this, because I've got 4 different mistakes that I really want to address that women get when it comes to weight loss. And the first mistake, and this is probably one of my biggest things that I get, I just get really, really fed up and I get really frustrated with, is workouts. Okay. So first and foremost, most women do not know how to progressively resistance train with proper progressive overload. Okay. And the problem is you've gone to maybe Orange Theory, You maybe actually had a personal trainer. You've gone to all these different chains of workouts. You've done body pump. You've done HIIT classes. You've got an app on your phone, YouTube this. I mean, there's no shortage of workouts out there on the internet. You can even consider ChatGPT progressive overload. And sure, it's going to spit you something out, but it's only going to get you so far. Okay. And this is where I see most women just kind of get in over their head, but they don't realize it. You don't realize that you don't know what you don't know when it comes to proper progressive resistance training and proper progressive overload, when to change things up. And so when it comes to weight loss, one of the biggest mistakes that women make is they think they got to work out to lose weight. Now, okay, hear me out. When we resistance train, we will burn calories, okay? And so we think that, oh, I ate too much, therefore I need to go work out. And working out is going to get rid of this fat. In theory, yes, you are going to burn more calories, and that is a good thing. And so then this is where your nutrition absolutely has to come into play, and you cannot out-train a bad diet. You cannot. Like, you can try, but especially for 40 plus, you are not going to be able to combat what stress you've put on your body, the amount of calories, with a simple workout. Okay. Now, in our 20s, yeah, we probably could. We could probably just go run, do some HIIT workouts, and, by Friday, we're looking good again, right? Like, but we are not there anymore, ladies. So, okay, what's the deal? Like, why is this such a big mistake for women? So first and foremost, I see a couple camps. I see a couple camps of women who are absolutely not working out. You feel tired, sluggish, it's all you can do to carry in the groceries, or, opening a jar of whatever, or opening something up and you're just like, gosh, I feel weak. I don't feel strong. And you're tired all the time. You just, I don't feel like working out, right? Because again, you're tired. And what you don't understand is if you actually worked out, you're actually going to feel better. You're actually going to feel stronger. And so there's the camp of women who are absolutely not doing anything, and they have brain fog, they feel fatigued, and they're like, Arin, I'm just not motivated to work out. When in reality, if they would just get a couple weeks in, they would all of a sudden start feeling so much better that you go, oh, dang, I have to work out because it makes me feel so good. That is typically the first thing. Once you get past that initial soreness, that unfortunately that first week you work out, you're going to be sore. And I hate that, but after that, it will subside. Now, anytime you change your programming, you should feel that muscle tightness that you're like, hey, I know I did something, but it's not like the very, very first week that you exercise. The other mistake with regards to progressive resistance training is a lot of women think what they're doing is progressive resistance training when it's really just kind of random workouts. I've had this too many times, but Arin, I've got this app. They've got strength training. Yeah, no, I know there's cardio days and there's strength days. I do upper body, then I do lower body, then I do push and a pull, and here's what I'm doing. And again, it's just very, very random. And someone is not overseeing it and saying, hey, you need to increase your weights. You keep using the same weights over and over and over again. The other big misconception is how much weight a woman should use. If you're using the 5, 10, 15 pound dumbbells and we haven't progressed past that, we haven't gotten into the 20s, 25s, 30s, I am here to tell you that you are stronger than that, but you've never programmed your workouts in a way that you would change your resistance, i.e. maybe you bring your rep scheme down. And so you haven't even had the opportunity to touch the 15s, 20s, 25s, because you've always been doing 10 reps, 12 reps, 15 reps, heaven forbid, 20 reps, right? And in which that's, again, you are stronger than you realize. Most women have no idea how strong they are. And I don't put myself out there on social media to brag about how much weight I can deadlift. And quite frankly, I'm not even that strong. Like, compared to some of the other women out there, they can lift a ton more than I can. Now, relative to my body size and my current weight, I'm pretty strong. So, and it's fun, but it has taken me a hot minute to get there. But that's where I post that stuff, because I want women to see, oh, dang, okay, she just pulled, 165 or 175, and whoa, okay, I've been deadlifting this 25-pound kettlebell. Oh, okay, maybe I do need to go up. Maybe I need to get that 30. Maybe I need to hold, 2 15-pound dumbbells and progressively increase my resistance. And so these are some super common mistakes when it comes to your progressive resistance training. Is you don't know how to properly overload the body and also keep it safe. That's what's really, really important to me is, I had a woman one time just look at my workouts, didn't even do the workouts, and she called me a scam, said there's no way that these workouts are going to work. And man, I will tell you what, that, not a lot of things get under my skin, but that really got under my skin because the person didn't know what she didn't know. She was very overweight, and I say that in all love and respect, and she had been killing herself in the gym. She'd restricted herself. She had used a GLP-1 before, and she had the audacity to just look at the workouts and tell me there's no way. And here's the thing. You do have to trust that, hey, you probably don't know what you don't know. And there is a Goldilocks zone when it comes to workouts. You do not have to kick your ass. A lot of times don't even hardly sweat when I'm in my workouts. Do I get warm? Of course. But I hardly leave the gym just, oh my God, I can't. Oh, that was a crazy workout, right? Now, I know I lifted and I had a good lift, but it's not like I'm laying in a sweat angel on the floor. And that's purposeful because we do not want to disrupt our hormones when it comes to resistance training, okay? We want this to put good tension on the muscle. The purpose is to get you stronger. And then we also desire, for most of us, to make the muscle bigger, meaning I want to see the good tone or definition to our body. Now, for most of us, for us to see the good tone and definition to our body, we have to drop our body fat. So again, a big mistake is not understanding progressive resistance training and understanding what your workouts actually need to look like. They cannot be random. They need to have rhyme and reason. For most women, their workouts need to be in a 4-week cycle. Typically what I do is I program 3 different workouts for a 4-week cycle. You repeat those workouts 4 times. So let's just say you work out Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. You're going to do the same workout on Monday. Wednesday will be a different workout, but you do that same workout 4 times. And then Friday is a different workout, meaning a 3rd different workout, and you will repeat that workout on Fridays. And you get in this very rhythmic, your body wants to know, okay, week 1, this is totally new. And that's typically when you're going to feel the most sore. Week 2, you come back and you go, okay, all right, I remember this. I'm going to try to increase my weights. And another thing that women always ask me, and it's a great question, but it's also extremely hard for me to answer, is, Arin, what weight should I use? Well, it depends. It depends where you're currently starting, what you used last time you did this exercise, depending on how many reps. And so here's my answer for what weight should you use. Is let's just say you're doing 10 repetitions. What we want to think about is when we are doing the reps that we get ourselves to 8 reps and it starts to get warm, meaning you start to feel warm, it starts to feel challenging, and then you're able to do 9 reps, you're able to do 10, but man, if I had to do 11 reps, there is no way. That is how you know. Now, I can give ranges of, hey, most women on bicep curls starting out, you're going to be testing out the 10s, 12s, 15s, and then you're going to progress yourself. Bicep curls, believe it or not, that is one that takes a hot minute to increase how much resistance you are using. And you actually will incrementally go up, but that one takes time versus maybe a squat. Maybe you're starting out, with 20 pounds and you can work yourself up. And believe it or not, you can back squat over your body weight, right? So there's just a lot that goes into how much weight should I use, but you always want to think about the rep scheme and you want to think back 2 reps to however many your particular plan was doing. You need to start feeling warm and then you're challenged to get through the next rep. And then the last rep, it's like, oh man, I could not do another rep. And you want to have good form, but it can be a struggle towards the end. So I hope that is helpful to hear that. But again, a huge mistake that I see with women in weight loss around progressive resistance training is knowing how to put together a proper program. This is why I prescribe the workouts for my clients and I put these in their app so that you don't have to guess. All you have to do is either go into your home gym, or maybe you're going to a commercial gym, you open up your app and you know exactly what to do. You're going to fill out the form fields with, what weights you use, and then you're going to hit save. And here's the deal. Then you come back next workout, you know exactly what you did before, and then you can test out new weights. And it just makes it easy. You don't have to second guess. You don't have to worry, is this working, not working? You just show up 3 days a week and we're going to do these workouts versus all this random. If you're doing random workouts, if you haven't changed your rep schemes, if you haven't changed the load, then you have to consider doing things differently. And also, the workouts are not what make you lose weight. The workouts are absolutely going to they're absolutely going to change the look of your body, meaning the tone, the definition with the muscle, but that is not the reason you are dropping weight on the scale. The food is going to be the most important thing that's going to actually move the needle when it comes to seeing true weight loss. The workouts just more support your strength and the overall look. And yes, it does play a factor into the overall calories, but I do not want you thinking, oh, the reason I'm not losing weight is because of my workouts. That is not true. Okay, so let's jump into the next big mistake that I see women make in weight loss, and that is blaming our hormones. Okay. So let's talk about this because I can't tell you how many times a woman comes to me and says, it has to be my hormones. And I'm like, well, sure, something's probably up with your hormones, but which came first, the weight or the hormones? And here's what I'm going to tell you is if you're in your 40s, 50s and above, we have had a little bit of life. We have had a whole lot of stress. And we have experienced a lot of things that are disrupting our hormones, but it is not the reason why you can't lose weight. Now, can it make it a little more challenging? Sure, of course, but that's typically when we're getting down to the last nitty gritty. So, for example, if your thyroid isn't functioning properly, it is not the sole only reason that you cannot lose weight. Is it going to make it more challenging? It can, but it's typically not going to present itself until you're at the very, very nitty gritty trying to lose the rest of your weight. So, for example, Tony just had to work through some of his hormones. His testosterone was absolutely tanked, and his thyroid was pushing into Hashimoto's, and so hypothyroidism. And so he had to work to heal the thyroid and worked very specifically with some certain supplements and some different pharmaceuticals that actually did help him pull himself out of Hashimoto's. Now, here's the thing. What was interesting is every time he would lean out, he couldn't put more muscle mass on. So it was the combination of his testosterone, but then also the thyroid. But we're talking, this was him getting down to his nitty gritty, very lean and putting muscle mass on. So again, it wasn't preventing him from losing any kind of weight. It was when he was getting down to that last little nitty gritty bit of it. And it was a very eye-opening experience getting his thyroid healed and then getting his testosterone in a much better position. It was wild how quickly, with just the impact of those two hormones with a proficient doctor, how it just pulled everything full circle. And so I never blame a woman for blaming her hormones, because it's not wrong, but it's not the full picture. And the worst thing I see is women then will think, well, I have to get on hormone replacement therapy, and that's going to make me lose weight. It is absolutely not going to make you lose weight. It is going to make you feel better. And that is really, really important. I never want to dismiss that. But on the flip side, this is not the reason you can't lose weight. Estrogen, progesterone, testosterone are not going to be the only reason you lose weight. And if anything, I've seen the exact opposite. I've seen women get on a bunch of HRT, specifically estrogen, and they just go nuts, or they start putting on more weight. So there's a lot of nuances that go into this. And this is why I'm such an advocate of, yes, get your labs, specifically get your labs, but we need you to do all of the things to help balance your hormones naturally. There is so much to be said for getting really, really good sleep. Sleep is so underrated when it comes to your hormones. And specifically, you want to think about your cortisol. You want to think about your growth hormone and recovering. You want to think about your hunger hormones. And even deeper into the thyroid, you have to focus into recovering. The other big one is your insulin. If your insulin is all over the place, a lot of times it's because you are not getting good sleep. And then there's a multitude of other things that I can say. But sleep is the most underrated way to balance your hormones naturally. The second best way to balance your hormones naturally is progressive resistance training. When you put more muscle on your body, you will have a better metabolism and you will absolutely balance out your insulin. Okay. Insulin gets balanced out with having muscle on your body and also by consuming enough protein. There are so many women that will tell me, like, Arin, my blood sugar's all over the place. I'm hypoglycemic. And I'm like, you're just not eating enough protein. And when we balance you with the right amount of protein and complex carbohydrates and get you away from, a lot of refined sugars, you would be surprised at how quickly you can balance out your insulin and your sugars and your response. So I have floated hypoglycemic like my majority of my whole life. It was really, really rough when I was pregnant. And this is where, when I have enough protein in my body, I understand how many carbohydrates work best for me personally. It is wild how stable and just good you feel. So we cannot blame our hormones for our lack of weight loss. What we need to dive deeper into is understanding how am I disrupting my hormones just by doing my day-to-day? Are you working a bajillion hours? Are you staying up super late? How much alcohol are you drinking? What kind of foods are you? What is your water intake? All of these things play a huge role, bigger than you would realize. And now here's the deal. Some women absolutely need hormone replacement therapy. There is no guessing to that. That is simple lab work. But if you are not doing all of the lifestyle things first, I would not go down that path. Another big one, and man, this has been a huge eye opener for me personally, is the use of birth control. And just being genuine, I was on it over 20 years using birth control because I was told this is what we do. This is how we manage your acne, how you have lesser symptoms. This is women's rights, right? Like this is how we control our cycle and our bodies, blah, blah, blah. All the things that I've been told my entire life. And it wasn't until I used a midwife when we were having our children, and she was like, "Hey, are you sure you want to do this birth control?" And this was in between having the kids. And I was like, "Well, yeah, that's what I do. I do birth control." And she was the first person that she didn't push the beliefs that she had, but I wish she would have, honestly. But she was the first person to say, "Hey, are you sure you want to take this?" And I was like, "Yes, this is what I do. I don't want to have, any more kids." And that was the first time anybody had been like, questioned me, should I take it? And that always stuck in my head. And so when I would go to my OBGYN every single year post having our kids, I was like, should I be taking this? Oh yeah, you're great. Oh, everything's fine. You're low risk, blah, 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 blah. Well, the things that I didn't think to ask, and this is why I share this, is I was having night sweats where I would wake up and I'm like, I would be in a pool. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? And then libido. I had no clue that I had zero libido. And I thought, okay, having sex, the frequency that we were having was normal. This is just, getting older and having kids and stress and life and business. And I thought it was normal. And here's what I didn't know. When I got my labs drawn, my hormones did not even register. They were so low. I had basically put myself in a artificial menopause because I had been taking birth control for so long. And what I was experiencing was not normal. And it wasn't until hiring a functional MD. So this is not a functional practitioner. This is not a functional health, whatever. This is a MD who has gone functional medicine. Okay. Huge difference. She said to me, "Hey, what are you doing on birth control?" And I was like, "Well, I don't want to have kids, so this is what we do." And she goes, "Well, it's tanking your hormones and basically put you in menopause." And I was like, what? She was like, "Tell me about this, tell me about that." She was asking me sex drive. She was asking me, brain fog, vision. She was asking me night sweats. And I was like, yes, 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 yes. And I go, "I just thought that was normal." And she was like, "No, that is not normal. You shouldn't feel that way." And it wasn't till having a very real conversation. I mean, she down to like sex, like how many times, what do you feel like? And I was like, "Well, not really. I really could care, like whatever." And she was like, "Arin, that's not normal." And I was like, wow, I'm actually having a legitimate, real conversation with a doctor about how I feel. And that what I'm feeling is not normal and it's not optimal. And she really educated me and she said, "Hey, your choice," but she said, "I highly recommend going off birth control." And I mean, we just had a very real conversation about how it was impacting my body and what I should be feeling, how long it would take to balance out my hormones. And she said, "Hey, we're not going to put you on any HRT until you get your hormones stabilized." And she said, "Hey, I need you to buckle up for the next 6 months to a year before we see things calm down." And hands down, the next 3 months were wild for me. I was like, what the hell am I doing? I felt terrible. But long story short, and I feel it's important to share this with you, is after 3 months, believe it or not, my hormones stabilized. All of a sudden, I had all this energy, brain fog, non-existent, night sweats, non-existent. I had libido through the roof, and I was like, wow, this is wild. And those 3 months that it took to stabilize, I will tell you, I questioned if what I was doing was right. I was crying, emotions all over the place. And I'm like, what the hell? The acne. Oh my God, the acne. I mean, there was just a lot of things that my body had to do to work through it. But I will tell you now, a year later of not being on birth control, it's so much better. So much better. And so there's a lot of things you can do from, if you're not wanting to have children, and that was my biggest thing is I did not want to get pregnant. And thankfully through wearing the Aura ring, which does my body temperature every day, it connects to an app that I've downloaded and paid for, and it's called Natural Cycle. And that has been hands down so beneficial because I know when I ovulate after a year of tracking this, I mean, it knows inside and out, and it's been extremely helpful for me from knowing, what days to abstain or use protection and that kind of stuff. And I mean, I just feel very empowered because before I just was like, well, that was my main objective. So the important thing in sharing all of this with you is we think our hormones are the thing that are going to block us or prevent us from losing weight. And that is not true. This is more about how you feel, which drives wanting to do the things. And so we need to stop giving the control to our hormones. And we need to understand what all am I doing to help balancing out these hormones. And here's the deal. When you have more adipose tissue or fat tissue on your body, your hormones are going to be disrupted. And so part of this journey is you've got to kind of hang in here as your body's getting to a more homeostasis that it's going to be wonky for a minute, and you're going to question, is this working? Am I doing it right? And those are all very, very normal feelings. And I want you to know that it's worth it in the end. And you have to saddle in for a good 6 months to a year, maybe more, but it will be worth it in the end. So I think I killed hormones. Now, the third biggest mistake that I see in weight loss is constantly feeding into our feelings. Okay, this one is not going to be a fun one, but here's the deal. We constantly validate feelings. Well, I'm exhausted, I'm tired, I'm frustrated, I'm stressed, I've had a long day, it's been a rough season, hard year. And trust me, I've said these things too. So the only reason I can ever speak on this stuff is because I've had to overcome this stuff too. And obviously coaching, the amount of women that I've coached, this stuff comes up. And when we feed into our feelings, when we quote unquote are tired, this is no different than blaming hormones. When you blame your feelings for why you're not doing what you need to do, this is like giving control to a toddler, right? So the important thing that I want to speak into on feelings is you're in control. Nobody gets to decide what you feel. I just had a big coaching call today, actually, on this whole topic of understanding our feelings. So here's the deal. They are real. Okay, we have feelings for a reason. And this isn't meant for us to be numb, but I want to give you the power back that your feelings are your feelings. Now, is it fair that when shit hits the fan that you feel a certain way? Of course. I don't want to ever sit here and say, Arin doesn't feel stress. Arin doesn't feel tired, want to cry, feel joy, feel happiness, right? Like I feel all the feels. But I will tell you most days I am very neutral, okay? Most days I'm very neutral or happy, okay? But when we give the feelings the control, meaning I don't feel like working out, I'm tired. Well, these are just excuses, and I mean this with all respect, but these are just you telling yourself you're not important. You telling yourself, I really don't want these goals. And you're feeding into this like constant loop and pattern and cycle that you're not important enough to do these things. And here's the deal. You can still work out even though you're tired. You can still work out even though you're stressed. And actually, it's probably going to make you feel better. So we have to quit giving all the control to our feelings, our thoughts, our emotions. And we have to ask ourselves, okay, what emotion am I feeling? Okay, stressed. Well, what's the purpose of stress? Well, Arin, I had a hard day. Today was a tough day. Okay. Well, what can we learn from today being a tough day and being stressed that when we learn from it, we can just let it go? I never thought of that, Arin. Well, fair. Okay. And this is what I help women do in my coaching program, because when we can understand that our emotions are ours, we own them, and that we can learn from them, we can ask ourselves, what's the purpose of actually feeling this? And when we can work through it enough times to understand, man, okay, yeah, that was stressful, but you know what? I don't have to feed into the stress, because what good has come from being stressed? Anybody like had great results from just being stressed out all the time? No, of course not. But I'll tell you, when you can say, you know what, no matter what my mood is, I'm going to take care of myself. No matter what my mood is, I'm going to work out. No matter what my mood is. I mean, think about it this way. When you have a brand new baby, okay, that baby is absolutely helpless, right? And you are the one that has to take care of it. But you're tired. You haven't slept. You just gave birth. You're bleeding. You're, whatever. You haven't eaten, haven't showered, but yet you still take care of that baby. That is proof that no matter what your mood is, no matter what's going on in your world, you can still do hard things. Okay. So I'm being a little extreme here, but when you realize that you're just as important as that brand new baby. Okay. And so, yeah, I'm probably comparing things a little extreme right now, but I want you to see the point that you're not going to feel like working out. Okay. I did not feel like working out today. And I chose to get up and go and do it anyways. Okay. After I did it, I felt so much better. And after every workout, I feel better. Do I feel like eating, well, I actually do most days. Very few things really, I don't even think triggering is a fair word. But when you get into the rhythm of doing things for yourself, it becomes normal. It becomes who you are. So a big mistake that women do is we feed into our feelings. Your feelings are fair, but you have to learn from them. And if we don't learn from our feelings and learn that we're the one that's actually in control, you're just going to keep repeating a never-ending cycle. Okay. The last mistake that I see most women, and I mean, this is a big one, is most women are not consistent enough. Most women have not done the things long enough and the right things to actually see the result. So many times I would see women, doing week after week after week. And because that scale didn't move, she was failing. When in reality, if she just would have hung in one more week, the scale would move. There's a lot of things that go on in our body that we just can't explain. There's a lot of cyclical things in our body that if you stack enough weeks, really it's 14 days. If you can stack 14 consecutive days, you will see that scale move. But for most women, we give in to, it's the weekend, I'm tired, there's those emotions again, And we're not stacking enough days to actually see the scale move. The thing that I find so interesting is the weight didn't go on in 30 days, yet we expect to see these results in 30 days. Wouldn't that be awesome? But you have to remember, this has been a lifetime of stress, life, not taking care of ourselves. Body is changing. It is fair to say your hormones have changed. Mine have changed for sure. But we cannot expect results in 6 months, a year, when this has been a lifetime of this behavior, patterns, shifts, changes. So I know that's not cool. I know I'm not like, yay, Arin just solved all my life problems. No, that's I know, right? But what I'm getting at is you have to be relentless towards this process. I have had my head down for the better part of probably, I will tell you, 4 years. Probably 5 years, if I'm really being honest. I had a couple different stints where I let myself get up to like, God, what was it? 150 pounds. And I got myself down to like, what was it? 128 to 132 is where I kept floating. And so, yeah, I put my head down, really got things, going in the right direction. And I could maintain that 128, 132. And I still, like, when I looked in the mirror, I was like, man, I'm fine, right? I'm okay. But I needed to go a whole nother level. And it took the better part of this last year, 2025, for myself, of just really dialing things in on another level. I also think going off the birth control absolutely helped. We actually had sold our gym in that process. And so I didn't have the wear and tear on my body of training clients, picking up plates, and just, more movement isn't better. And I actually had a ton of cortisol. I was very, very, very inflamed. And so with some help of some peptides, that has absolutely helped pull my inflammation down. And I'm very, very grateful for that. But also going off the birth control, really, really dialing in my nutrition harder than what I really wanted. And I mean, I got myself down to 15% body fat. And so that was just so eye-opening to see what just very, very little shifts. But I mean, I absolutely stopped the snacking. I stopped the popcorn fetish that I had every night. And I mean, I dialed in my food more than what most women would want to. But it was okay because now, being on the other side of it, I'm like, dude, that was just a year. Like, it was just a year. And so I got myself down to, I think the lowest I got was 113. And I'm hanging out, somewhere between 117, 118 now. And now this is really about the aesthetic and look for myself. And I'm like, what can I do? How strong can I get? Like, how much can these muscles pop out, right? And now it's just like really playing with my programming, my volume, and it's more just a look that I personally want. But it took consistency. It took putting my head down. It took saying no to a lot of, desserts and just extras and treats. Now, don't get me wrong. I literally just got off of the whole Christmas cookies and all that. And I was like, holy moly, punched myself up to what I think it was like 122 or something. And I was like, okay, rein it back in. And I mean, we're back now. But I was just like, okay, girl, too many sweets. Got to get out after this. But I keep it real. Okay. And you don't let yourself get too far. I knew that I would put some weight on over the holidays. And you know what? I got it right back off. I'm back sitting 117. I think it was like 117 flat this morning. And so I don't share these numbers to like, you need to be these numbers, but I share them because we've all been there. I have had seasons of stress beyond belief, and you have your version of that story. I absolutely wanted to blame my hormones. I remember being in and out of doctors' offices so many times, begging and pleading that something had to be wrong. And I remember getting labs back and everybody telling me I was normal. I remember just like, there has to be something in the red. Like, come on, something has to be red. And then finally, like, I think I got one lab back and it was like my thyroid was in the red. And I was like, yeah, see, something's wrong. Well, guess what? I tried to take Synthroid and it made me freaking batty. And that wasn't really even my problem. So, holy moly, like, how many times have you been in and out of your doctor's office just praying that someone would validate why you don't feel right? When in reality, I was not doing the things. I was not sleeping. I was working out too hard, way more than I should have. I was running all the time. And let's just be real. I did not have my nutrition dialed in, even close. I was drinking too much and I was fretting and stressing over things that I really didn't need to. And so my hope with this podcast is that you're hearing these words and you're saying, okay, dang, she's been there too. And she seems to have this figured out, because I do. And I only share this stuff. And here's the funny thing is, like, I never even felt like I had a weight loss story to share until I did. And for me, I didn't ever want to share it because I was embarrassed. I was embarrassed to be in this industry, have an exercise science degree. But man, I will tell you, when I look back at pictures now, I'm like, dang, I was really puffy. And holy moly, I couldn't even blame the weight on the kids. But it's so hard to look back at pictures now, because I was like, wow, you owned a gym, you're an online health coach, and you had that much weight on your body. But it happens, we're all real and we're human. And I share that because I want you to understand I wasn't doing the things, and I was seeking a lot of validation in the wrong departments. And I wasn't taking the personal responsibility of, hey, you got to dial in your workouts a little bit better. You need a different strategy. I needed to understand that the birth control was not helping me personally. Okay, everyone needs to have that conversation with their doctor. But the hard thing is most docs are going by what the book says and not necessarily what's in the best interest or what is optimal for their patient. Okay, and we feed into our feelings. I promise you, I was feeding into my feelings and talking about how stressed I was, how hard life was. We had no shortage of things going on in our world, really young kids. And I mean, that's survival. And I know you have your version of that story. And I promise you, when you can get past the feelings and get very objective, it's amazing what you can do. And then last but not least is the consistency all day, every day. When you can be consistent more than you want to be. And I remember that too. Like, it was just like, oh man, screw this. But when you can get past it, and where you start to see those glimmers and you start to see that scale to move, and you really work through what is the purpose of eating whatever, and you just step back and realize, like, man, this is way better on this side. Because I can tell you, when you feel good in your skin all day, every day, when all your clothes fit, when your husband is looking at you differently, when he says he's more attracted to you. And that's not a slam. It's not that he wasn't before. And I have women say this all the time. Well, my husband loves me just the way I am. My husband, hid my scale because he wants me to stop obsessing. I promise you that your husband will love you even more and will show you more affection and things that you personally desire when you feel good in your own skin. Not just the aesthetic of the attraction, but let's be real. We are human beings. We have instincts, and desiring and the visual is part of who we are. And so when you feel so good inside your own skin, you give off a different, strong, confident woman that, of course, your husband's going to be even more attracted to you. So I love that husbands love us the way we are, but I'm just going to be honest. When you look a certain way, there is a different level to that relationship, and it is possible. Okay. And I don't know any husband that lets their wife get smoking hot that doesn't come along with you. Okay, maybe they're not on the journey today, but trust me, no husband is just going to let you get smoking hot and he doesn't take care of himself, because you need to model this. All right, ladies. Well, those are the 4 most common mistakes I see. I hope this was helpful. I know this was helpful, and I feel you. I want you to understand that there is hope. You can have these results too. And we got to get past thinking we got it all figured out. And I want you to reach out for help. You can hit me up on any socials. You can DM me and just say, hey, listen to that podcast that really hit home. And I'm ready to get coaching and support. I'm ready to do this for the last time. Let's go.